Okay, so we selected the logo. Now we want it to give. Now we want to give it a border. Can any one of you tell me how to do that?
Border style.
Yeah.
Solid.
Border style solid. Are there any?
1 pixel.
What do you say?
1 pixel solid.
1 pixel solid.
And,
Where would I write that?
Before solid, you can just like before solid. You
Before
can,
solid.
Yeah, you can write the size
1 pixel.
Yeah.
And then what?
and the color after the solid.
And then what? The color after the solid? Yeah. Oh, I get an error.
It's border without border, not border style.
Not border style?
It should be border.
Okay. Yeah, that works. I'm gonna cheat and make this a different color because you can't really see it on the board. I'm gonna make it this. Or even that, or this. That's a little better. So what you were saying, Tamin, how do you pronounce it? Tamina? Border style is actually, well, if I were to inspect the code for this, and let's try to do that. That's something that is used fairly often in web development. So in CodePen, I can open it in something called a debug mode, and in that way, I will just get the pure website. And if I right-click and click on Inspect, then it will open Google's web tool. What is it called? Development tools.
This isn't a CodePen thing. This is a Chrome thing.
Yeah.
You can do this on any website.
Yeah. So Chrome is very, very good at. Well, most browsers actually have it, but Chrome's is really, really nice. So you can see that this is my whole HTML for the page, right? I have my HTML, and in there I had my head with a bunch of metadata and linking stuff, and then I have the body, and in there I have whatever I have written in CodePen. So all of these things on the left side, they are here. And I can fold them together or open them as depending on how much detail I want to see. So this is a very good place to get some overview of your code. Anyway, if I look at, what was it I was trying to do? Oh yeah, the border. So if I look at the border here, then you can actually see, okay, sorry. If I choose one of these elements, I will down here get all the styling connected to them. So for example, for the logo, I have the styles from over here. Whatever I wrote there, I can see in the DevTools. So you can see there is a tiny arrow there. That is because border is actually a shorthand for a couple of border properties. So there is, well, you would basically group them into three. There is border color, there is border style, and border width. Yeah, and border width is the first one. How wide should it be? Border style is the second one. If it should be, well, there's a lot of different stuff. There's solid, there's dashed, there is dotted. You can see it changing over there. You can play around with it when you feel like it. And then the third one is border color. And you can actually specify color only for the top border or the top left border even. It's yeah. So border style is also fine to write here, but if you want to do it in a shorter way, then you can just write border and specify all of these three values. Okay.
And now I do it because it's better for me to realize
Yeah.
what did I do.
Yeah.
And then I don't forget which
which is which.
value is for which kind,
Yeah.
which property.
That's fair. And when you get comfortable, then you can
Yeah.
use the shorthand if you want to. All right. Is there anyone who managed to get this one? It was the nav links that should be the color of tomato with no underline.
Great.
Text
Dot
decoration.
mapping.
Yeah. What's
That
the
link,
selector?
The class name
Yeah.
link.
Yeah, the class nav link.
Text decoration and
Text
decoration.
decoration. Mm-hmm.
Color.
Color tomato. That's beautiful. Great. Yes, that's exactly what you write. So there's a lot of text decoration styles in CSS, and now I have saved my pen. So if I open it in debug mode, then I can try to inspect it again. And you can see if I look at the text decoration. So if I don't have anything here, then it's gonna suggest some autocomplete. And this is an amazing way of getting an idea of all the properties that exist. So I can very, 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 very warmly recommend you to mess around in here in the DevTools. You open it on Windows. You open it with pressing F12.
Actual.
Yeah, on a web page, or by right-clicking and then saying inspect on something. And you can, when you want to, what do you say?
Yeah, inspect.
Yeah, and when you want to inspect a specific element, you can either find them in this. It's called the DOM tree, so you can either find them in the DOM tree, or you can click on this one, the first icon here, which will let you select a specific element. So like I can also, for example, select the logo here, and then it will select it there and will show me the styles to it.
But what's mean like when they make a line over? It's like warning something.
This one?
Yeah.
It means that this specific style is not supported in this specific browser. So there is something called prefixes for different properties, and I guess we'll talk about it a bit later. So when you are developing websites, you need to support multiple browsers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's Chrome. There's, do you know any other ones?
Yeah.
Chrome, the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Safari.
Yeah, exactly.
Mozilla,
Yeah.
Firefox.
Yeah, and all of these browsers are different, and they exist on even on different operating systems, right?
Yeah.
On Mac and Windows, and they don't support all the CSS features the same way, and some of them sometimes need a prefix like WebKit. And if you don't know what is supported where, then there is a very good resource. One of them is the one that Will already mentioned,
Yeah.
MDN, where if you, for example, say, I don't know, border, will it find it? Yeah. And then you can go down to the bottom, and there's always this chart with browser compatibility, where it shows you which browser, which version is supported. But there's also another resource called caniuse.com. Maybe you should bookmark it. I can just send it here. Browser compatibility. What's it called? Info. Yeah. Where you can just write the property you are looking for example, border, and then it will show you if it's supported in which browser and then which version, and then if it's light green, then it means it is partially supported. So sometimes it means that you are gonna need to use a prefix. So you can see that, for example, on iOS Safari 3.2 to 5.1, it's partially supported with the prefix WebKit. But this is something that, like writing all these different prefixes, is something that you don't need to worry too much about, because there are some tools built for us which will, for example, there's one called Auto Prefixer, which will add all of these prefixes automatically when you build your site. So don't worry too much about that, but it's good to know that they exist. So anyway, that's why it's crossed over. But, and where were we coming from? Yeah, so it's a very, very good tool to mess around and see all the different options for different properties, and also it will refresh it automatically over there, or it at least should. So you can see it right away. Yeah.
So normally we don't use this RG for colors. RGB.
RGB.
Yes. So there are a couple of different ways of writing color in CSS. There is one called a hexadecimal, which is the one that starts with a hash. So that will be hash and then 6 characters going from 0 to F.
Yeah.
So you go through all the numbers, and then when you reach 9, then you will go over to yes, exactly. And then RGB, hexadecimal colors. I'm just looking to. Don't know if there's like a good. So it will look at the RGB color system, and then the first 2 letters will be how much red you want. The second 2 characters will be how much green you want, and the last 2 how much blue you want. So for example, if you go down to 00, then it will mean that you want no red.
Okay.
And if you go to FF, that means like the most green possible. And if you go 00 here, then it's going to be as green as it gets, basically. If you go for FF, then you will get something that contains the most amount of green and blue. So that's the way hexadecimal colors work. Then we have, what was it you were asking about? Yeah, well, there's one called RGB, which is pretty much the same, but a bit of a different syntax. You will have numbers going from 0 to 155. 252. Yeah, that's right. That was a test, and you passed. Going to 255, and you also specify how much of each you want. So how much of red, how much of green, how much of blue you want. And then there is another one called RGBA, which is the first 3, and a 4th one, which is the alpha, which will mean your opacity. So it will go from 0 to 1. So you will write 0.5, for example. That will mean half, and that will be how transparent or opaque you want these elements to be. So that's actually something that's used fairly often.
Can I try it, because I don't understand? Is the last one?
Yes. So if I take it down to 0, then you see that they will be transparent. The nav links, completely transparent. If I take it to 0.1, that means the opacity should be 10% of this color.
Okay.
If I take it to 0.2, then it will be 20%, then 50%, then 80%, and then if I go up to 1, then it will be 100%.
Ah, okay.
Hmm?
Yeah, like visibility. Can,
Well, yes. Yeah,
Transparency.
opacity, transparency.
okay.
Yeah.
So
But-
you recommend this one, RGBA?
Well,
What's the most like used?
I guess it's
Hex, I think.
hex, and then when you need transparent colors, then RGBA.
Yeah.
Because hex doesn't have the alpha, the transparency. So sometimes, I mean, you can also what's it called, mess around with opacity by writing there is a property called opacity, actually. So if I could just write 0 here. I could just write 0 here, and then instead of an RGBA color, just do a hex.
Okay.
But that is it makes it a bit different though, because then it's not the color that is transparent or partly transparent, but the actual element. So that it's used differently, but you have a possibility to adding opacity to your elements or colors. Right. But yeah. So that was number 4. Number 5, should we try? Give papaya whip background to the main. How would you do that?
Main.
Yeah.
Background.
Yeah. Background. Papaya whip. Oh yeah, and you asked about what papaya whip. What color types there are. There are also these predefined CSS words that will translate to a certain color. So that's why this is one of the predefined ones.
Yeah.
Tomato is also one. Then there's also white, and there's black. There's gray. There's a bunch of different ones, and this is one of the nicer ones.
Okay.
I think in practice, you hardly ever see the word ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see white and black and transparent, but mostly you'll see hexes. and
Hexes,
RGBs.
okay.
Yeah, it's nice if you're just trying to develop something quickly, and instead of using blue and green, you want something a bit nicer. Then you can just find some words that are kind of nice.
Sometimes if you don't have experience, I expect I like something, but it's not fit.
Yeah, there is a if then you can color, or then you can Google CSS colors and color names, and then there's an article that shows all of them. Yeah, all of these. So those are the predefined ones.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Right. That's cool. So what about this one? Can anyone help me? Get the article to fill 80% of width and to be centered but text align left.
Article width.
So what would I select?
Article.
Article. So when I select just with this word, what do I select?
H1P.
It's all the article. Like
Yeah.
You have it.
a section or the
Yeah, right. So
Block.
this, I'm selecting all articles inside this page, right? So if I had another article, if I had another article with like class something, I would also be selecting that, right?
Yes.
So I can do this, but again, this is mainly for test purposes. It's not for real development. Then you would probably call it something with a class instead. But yeah, so article, and then what?
Width.
Width,
8%.
8%. Yeah, so now it's 80%, but it's not centered.
No.
Do you know what?
Text
How?
align?
Well, text align should be left. Yeah.
Margin.
Mm-hmm.
8%.
Margin 80%. Mm-hmm. Oh, then it will. I think it will probably give me a lot of margin.
Yeah. What about padding? No. Padding.
Padding.
And that's the CSS mug right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we say margin auto?
Can try that. Wow, magic. So you see that the text is still left aligned, but it is centered. Do you know what that means? Margin auto, can you explain what it does?
No, I just used it last time. Somebody recommended for me.
Okay, so margin auto is one of these really nice features in CSS. It like calculates like compared to the width that you are using, the remaining space it will calculate and have like divide it up and put it onto the left and the right side of your element. So in this case, this is actually the same as writing. I can just cross this out. This is commenting it out, by the way. Do you know that? This.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I,
Because instead of this one, I was using syntax. And I asked my friend, he recommend for me this margin auto.
Yeah.
He say we don't use center anymore.
center, yeah.
Yeah, if you center in HTML, if you write syntax, you can also give the same result.
Yeah.
But it's not used anymore.
No, that's true. So yeah, so what margin auto does in this situation is that it adds a margin left and right 10% because 100% minus 80 is 20 divided by 2 is 10. So margin auto is a very, very nice way of avoiding some math for you.
And it's also better for a different screen.
Yeah, and I mean, this means that if you have a responsive website, do you know what that means? Responsive?
Yes.
It means something that works for a mobile phone and a tablet and a big device. Yeah.
Maximize it's gonna keep and it's gonna adapt with.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So if I change the view over here to something like this instead, then if I write with 80% and margin auto, then the width is going to be 80% of the currently available width, right?
Yes.
So this is responsive, basically automatically, which is really nice. But I might want this to be, I don't know, 100% on mobile, because I don't have that much space. Then margin auto is still gonna work. Or
Can
yeah,
I
okay,
ask a question?
yeah.
When you wrote 80% as margins,
Mm-hmm.
you got the your text lost somewhere,
Yeah,
and this background color was somewhere else.
yeah.
Why did it happen?
That's a good point.
When we wrote margin,
When you get
80%.
Before the margin also, you gave another number and everything was messed up, right?
right?
But it's the background and the text, they got separated. They moved in a different direction.
So that was, if I just go over to the DevTools instead. Where is it? It's on the article, yeah. So you can see that margin is actually also a shorthand. It's a shorthand of margin top, margin right, bottom, and left. And all of it will get it if I write just one value. So if I write 80%, then you can see that if I inspect this, if I want to select this, then you can see that it will get 80% on top, 80% on the left and the right and the bottom. So because it will get more margin than there is space available for it, it will be pushed out of the container.
So why it didn't happen for the color, for the background? They are not together, they're different things.
Oh, in that way. Yeah, that's kind of
No.
weird.
Because the box is still background color is only applied to the actual box, and the actual box ends there.
Oh yeah.
This is the
But it's because, but it wouldn't be separated if it was on the same thing, right? Like it would, because it's margin and not padding. But the background is actually on the main, and we are applying all this width and margin to the article.
Oh.
So the background is still on that box.
yeah, but the article can extend out of it, like in this weird kind of way.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the CSS mug is all about. Like you'd think this is contained within that box of main, but it can actually go outside of it
Yeah.
and be displayed outside of it.
But it's doing this because we are adding it 80% margin when it also has 80% width. So that's more than 100%. So it gets messed up.
Yeah.
So that's why. I just realized that the time has really. I have still a lot of slides. I don't know if we could maybe start by going through those next time really quickly. I guess we covered a lot in this exercise that I would have said, but maybe it will be fine to just use a little time for it
Yeah.
next time. I'm gonna
If you
stop.
want, you can also share it on Slack so people also